What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. John and Pemba here alongside James Grande, Matt Sells producing for us. What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. John and Pemba here alongside James Grande everywhere. Both sites, DraftKings and FanDuel, doing a little Black Friday promotions with their contests as well today. But here at Fantasy Alarm, we have a huge Black Friday deal going on right now. Our best deal ever is here. You get everything we do in all sports through next NFL season for less than $8 a month when you pay $100 right now. Make no new payments until January 1st of 2020. It's 2018, James. You don't have to pay again until 2020.
Yeah.
That's a great deal. I will be there for both your DFS or seasonal play. Tons of analytical features like our playbooks, customizable tools, league sync, lineup generators, editorial views, plus we answer all of your questions in our subscriber chat. Sells is there, James is there, I'm there, Vreeland, everybody, you need Malin. We're all in chat all day answering questions. So come with us to Fantasy Alarm. Win fantasyalarm.com/Black Friday, fantasyalarm.com/Friday. We have sold a ton of these subscriptions today. Don't miss out now. $100 today. You don't have to pay again for Playbook Pro subscriptions until January 1st of 2020.
That's crazy.
Can't beat that deal. Can't beat that deal. But, James, on this Black Friday, we also have a 11/12 game slate.
I like the slash. I love that slash.
Because FanDuel decided for whatever reason to cut out the Pistons-Houston game. They just took those players out of your player pool for you. They think that was their Black Friday deal, right? They're just shrinking the player pool for you. So yeah, you can get rid of that. But with that being said, James, what are we looking for injuries? What are we looking at for totals? So we can jump in here and break down the players.
So we're primarily waiting over in Indiana for the Indiana news. Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, both game time decisions. That's going to really move the needle for me, at least, because I think that, Thad Young instantly becomes a really good play. Someone like, we mentioned Kyle Quinn is free everywhere. He could become potentially an excellent play. So we're really just waiting on that news. For totals, we have some doozies. 236 currently in New York, New Orleans, 7.5 point spread is nice. Because last time we saw them play, I think it was in the double digits, right? 10, 11, something like that. So it's nice to see 7.5. Thankfully, the Knicks are home, so maybe they'll keep it close. Boston, Atlanta, 223, I think is really interesting. We've been seeing Boston in, recently in the 200s, right? Like 208, 209, something like that.
Breaking news in that game, too. Marcus Morris is starting in place of Al Horford tonight.
That is huge news because I think Marcus Morris now becomes almost a lock for all formats. I think, but we'll get into that in a few. I know you definitely have some thoughts on that. Charlotte, Oklahoma City, 228.5, 6.5 point spread, 232.5 in Phoenix, Milwaukee. Huge underdogs. Phoenix are 13.5. So really scary for cash games. 218 Portland Golden State, a game that we both love. We talked about it on the podcast. A lot of we have some really favorite plays in that game. And then, San Antonio, Indiana is a slate low at 208. But we still we always talk about Xing people out. We still like plays from that game. And Washington, Toronto over 230 as well. So we have a lot of big totals, and even our low totals we like players from. So huge player pool to select from. So why don't we jump into the old point guard position here, Johnny boy.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook, right? Top play here at point guard. 48.7 fantasy points against Golden State, 60 against Sacramento. I think that's really what we're looking at here. At the top of the chart, again, he almost had a triple-double against the Hornets the first time out against them. Fell 2 rebounds shy. Kemba Walker not going to play a lot of defense. He's just concentrating on scoring and keeping Charlotte as competitive as he possibly can. So I think we're going to have a nice point guard matchup here, and Westbrook tops off the point guard position.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to ignore, and we kind of touched on this in the podcast. 15 shots, I know he's done it a few times recently, 15, 16, 16, but this just kind of feels like a 20 shot game. We saw it the first time around. they really struggle in the backcourt defending, whether it's going to be him, Batum, or Jeremy Lamb. None of them can really stay in front of Westbrook. So I think we can safely project 20 shots here. And if we get efficient shooting along to go with 11 rebounds, 13 assists, I mean, we have a guy who can break a slate. So yeah, he's the top point guard, one of the top plays on the slate. I'm curious to find out like how you would rank him amongst the elite we have on the slate, knowing that you did the playbook today.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there. If we're talking about elite guys, Davis, Embiid, Giannis, LeBron, who I'm actually not on LeBron tonight.
Right.
You can play him. I'm not saying don't play him. I have to stress that all of these guys are in play. I don't like necessarily the LeBron matchup here. But Westbrook and Durant, those all guys. And I think Westbrook is probably third for me. Okay. I like Giannis. I like Durant. I put him and Anthony Davis probably right 1-2. I worry about the blow-up potential there with Anthony Davis. I know he plays 40 minutes. Really doesn't matter anyways. Right. But everybody's looking at this last matchup against the Knicks and saying, "Ooh, he did." Somehow the Knicks managed to lead that game for 3 quarters. Right. They won the first quarter by 16. They led by 16 after the first quarter. They were up by like 12, I think, at halftime. That's not something that I'm really anticipating to continue to happen. For the Knicks, but who knows? Crazier things will happen. So for me, I think I have Westbrook right behind Giannis, probably compared with Durant, but Anthony Davis right there as well. Point guards, you and I are both in on Lillard and Kyrie Irving tonight. They're priced pretty much right next to each other over on DraftKings. $100, I think, separates the two. On FanDuel, it's $400. You had some crazy numbers during the podcast today. Lillard average was like 37 points per game. Last year against the Warriors, and he's playing in Oakland where he's from, and he had like a 30 or 40-point game, something like that in Golden State last
44.
year.
44. Yeah.
So absolutely love Lillard tonight in this matchup. And then Kyrie Irving is doing everything for the Celtics right now. He's had double-digit assist totals in 3 of the last 4. No Al Horford tonight, as we said, which means he's probably going to have to handle the ball a little bit more. Horford, they like to have him sort of run the offense a little bit. He usually racks up a handful of assists. Aron Baynes isn't that player, so that usage has to kind of go around somewhere else. As I mentioned, Marcus Morris is in the starting lineup tonight, but still, I think Kyrie Irving is the guy here against Atlanta, who you said ranks amongst the worst teams defensively against the point guard position. I don't think Trae Young stands a prayer to stand in front of him tonight. So for me, Kyrie Irving, Dame Lillard, really 1A, 1B if you're not paying up for Westbrook.
Yeah, and like you just mentioned, Atlanta is actually 26th against point guard. And they're the number 1 pace team, something that we should definitely touch on because the Celtics aren't playing at the fastest pace. Faster pace means more possessions for Kyrie and the Celtics offense in general. Trae Young, 117 defensive rating. So literally everything points to Kyrie tonight. Plus he's coming in hot. So I there's like nothing that turns me off of Kyrie. And like you just said, Lillard going home probably has 100 tickets for his family and friends in Oakland in the Bay. And the numbers last year, I mean, it's the same team with a worse defense without Draymond protecting the rim. So, I mean, who's to say he doesn't even have a bigger outing? I'm not right. So,
100%. I think Kyle Lowry, if we're going down a little bit more, is in play. Triple-double last game. I don't think we can expect triple-double again with Leonard back, but in the matchup earlier this year against Washington, he had 52 fantasy points. Think with Washington playing small still, with Dwight Howard ruled out, likelihood that they play small. That means there should be a quicker pace, I assume, for these two teams. Thinking that Valanciunas is also off the floor. So I think Kyle Lowry, 8K, well within play tonight.
Yeah, I like him. John Wall has been a terrible defender. Washington ranks dead last against point guards. So it's hard not to like him. We're obviously not going to get a ceiling game. Well, I don't think it's obvious, but I don't suspect a ceiling game comes with Kawhi. But I do think there's a safe floor. I mean, he's averaging about 41 a game, and that's what we need from him tonight over on DraftKings, at least at 8K. So, I like that call a lot.
Yeah, in that mid-tier, you mentioned you really like Collin Sexton. He plays in blowouts. Doesn't really matter what happens. Cleveland's just committed to giving him the minutes. And he took, 17 shots, I think it was, in the last game. So, you're in on him, even though you think, he's not an efficient play, but because of the minutes, the volume stats could technically be there for him. The hit value, and he's only 5.7K on FanDuel. I think he's similarly priced.
5.2.
5.2, so a little bit cheaper on DraftKings. Now, Philadelphia is allowing the the 8th fewest DraftKings points this season to point guard, but again, Sexton's going to play 35 plus minutes probably, regardless of score here. So don't mind him as sort of a mid-tier play below. But I think for me, it's Trey Burke, right? The guy that we talked about a lot on Wednesday. Good, we definitely touted him, and he goes on and has a 10x game off the bench of all things against Boston of all teams too. My Celtics just bleeding points to Trey Burke. But again, probably same scenario. He's going to come off the bench, I would think, tonight. Had 32 fantasy points against the Pelicans last time out. I think you have to just play him. He's just a really great price. Neither site really moved his cost.
Yeah, we kind of were touching that on the podcast. Like, they had 2 full days, and I know they released the slate early, but they didn't move anyone's cost. So they're making it a lot easier for us to play guys like Trey Burke, his teammate Noah Vonleh. You kind of have to play him. Whether you play him in a cash game, whether you play him in a tournament, the spread is close enough, total is high enough, the Knicks are playing up in tempo, and he's going to play 25 minutes, as you said. And if he's going well, he's going to play more than that because they don't play Moutier more than 23, 24 minutes. So, yeah, I like Burke. What are your thoughts on – I haven't been in on him completely, but, I mean, the minutes continue to be there. Ryan Arcidiacono, 31, 31, 29, 31, 35, 30, 33. His last 7 games, minutes-wise. Last game, 28 fantasy points. He's still just 3.7K. And the Heat don't have an actual point guard. So I don't necessarily know who's going to match up with him, whether that's Wayne Ellington, whether that's Rodney Magruder. I'm not really terrified of either of them.
Yeah.
And we're getting a starting point guard at 3.7K in a close total. Do you like him at all?
So he's 4.3 on FanDuel. Obviously a little bit more pricey. And
right.
We've seen him. What's his ceiling we've seen this year? 25 fantasy
20,
points?
About 28. Well, 28 on DraftKings because he has he's pretty
Steals
good defensively.
Upside?
Yeah.
So the thing is with him is Wednesday when we were doing the lineups and testing out the fantasy lineup generator that we have over there in the NBA tool section, our generator kept on spitting him out to me, and I was like I don't know. They had him projected for like 25, 26 fantasy points, which would have been great value at his price tag, but I just didn't think that the upside was there, especially based off the previous 2 games where he scored 11 and 12, and then he goes and puts up 27. So kudos to the fantasy lineup generator, spot on with his production. I ran it again today, and again they gave him to me at 23 fantasy points. He's going to give me 23 fantasy points at his price tag on DraftKings. Yep, for me, he's in play. I think I have interest in Aaron Holiday again with Victor Oladipo ruled out. I know the one thing with him is that he's only been playing – the games have been blowouts. Now, he's been seeing minutes, but those games have also been blowouts. So I don't know if that's helped him get extended run. Say this game tonight against San Antonio is closer. Maybe Tyreek Evans stays on the floor a little bit more. Maybe Corey Joseph or Darren Collison play more minutes because they trust them more. But Holiday, in the increased playing time he's seen over the last 3 games now, 15, 21, and 23 minutes, he's giving you 16, 28, and 27 fantasy points. So 3.8K on FanDuel. Again, I don't know if point guard's a position I'd rather put a punt play in. I think there are other spots on FanDuel especially to do that, but I think Aaron Holiday is sort of still intriguing to me.
Yeah, he's intriguing. I think he becomes more intriguing if Sabonis and Turner were ruled out. Because then we can probably predict that the Spurs could blow them out more handily, right? Because, I mean, Sabonis is probably their best individual scorer with Oladipo off the floor. I mean, just thinking off the top of my head, maybe Bojan. And then Turner's their only really good rim protector. So you lose a rim protector and a scorer. I don't know how LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan don't both go off. So maybe if they both sit, I have more interest. But I'm not totally against it. He's been on our radar for a couple games, and he's been producing. So I don't hate it at all.
Yep. Over at shooting guard, again, if you're on FanDuel, you don't have access to James Harden, but on DraftKings, Harden versus Detroit had 70-something fantasy points against them last game. Now they're on the road, but still a 215 spread, 4-point total, close enough. Detroit didn't all of a sudden learn how to defend the shooting guard position over Thanksgiving holiday, I don't think. Unless Harden had too much turkey on Thanksgiving. I think
Definitely a chance.
He's a sneaky fat guy. I think there's a chance that he can just as easily go for 60, 70 again in this matchup here.
I'm so happy I'm not the only one that notices James Harden is a sneaky fat guy. He is definitely a sneaky fat guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah. And what we like the most is Harden is seemingly getting back to where he was last year when he's just getting to the free throw line at will. The last 2 games, he's shot in 29 free throws. And if you just go through his box scores, the last 3 56 or plus fantasy point outing, he's gone to the line at least 10 times. Yeah. So I think he's getting back to that way where he's not just settling for 15 threes a game like he was earlier in the year. So I love him. Unfortunately, we only get him on one site. That sucks.
Yeah, the price on that one site, though, is pretty good, 10.7K.
That is a really good price for his upside. Yeah, tremendous price.
The fifth highest priced player on DraftKings.
He's not going to be owned like the other day because everyone's going to play Durant. Everyone's going to play Westbrook and Giannis. So, I mean, again, we said it the other day, ownership. He's not going to be owned. So if you want to play him, obviously don't feel free.
No, for sure. Again, over on FanDuel, where we have these games, it's DeRozan. As I said in the podcast, there's like a clump of 4 players. It's DeRozan, Butler, LaVine, and Holiday, 87, 86, and LaVine and Holiday are 85 each. My interest is really with LaVine and Holiday at 8,500. Not to say I don't think DeRozan can have a good game here with no Oladipo. He did struggle in that first matchup against them, but I think Oladipo had a lot to do with that. I still like the fact that every game we're pretty much seeing 5 or 6 rebounds and assists out of DeRozan. If you can get either the multiple steals game to go with the 20 real points, then that 40 to 50 fantasy point ceiling is there. I just like the way LaVine has this matchup against Miami, who isn't defending shooting guards at all, and then Drew Holiday gets a matchup against Tim Hardaway Jr., who last time I looked had like a 118 defensive rating. So for me, those are the 2 spots I'm looking at on FanDuel.
Yeah, Holiday has been so secure, so safe. I mean, we ran down, I'll just 55, 44, 43, 49, 36, 58, 46, 51, 49, 44. That's his last 10 games.
Yeah.
Fantasy points. So that literally might be like the safest floor that we're going to see at this kind of price tag. So I think he's obviously viable for all formats. He just plays big minutes regardless. No Elfrid Payton doesn't help that they have no depth at guard. So, he's going to play minutes, and we know LaVine has massive scoring upside at all times. I said on the podcast, he had like 2 points going into half or something. He had no points at the end of the first quarter, and he ended up scoring nearly 30 actual points and over 40 fantasy points. So, elite upside for LaVine. I'd probably lean him in tournaments and lean Holiday in a cash game setting.
Yeah, I like that. Going down, Donovan Mitchell, Tim Hardaway Jr., I think are 2 GPP options to look at here. We loved the bounce-back game for Mitchell after he did nothing against Indiana, and he went on to put 44 FanDuel points against Sacramento. The Lakers are among the worst defending teams against shooting guards this season. The worst.
Yep, number 1.
Now, we are expecting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to play more minutes tonight. He obviously, I think, is a better defender than whatever they were starting at shooting guard beforehand. So there's maybe that little hesitation, but still like Donovan Mitchell here against the Lakers, as long as he's going to take 20 plus shots, he should make a lot of those. And then Tim Hardaway, again, you talk about a guy with a pretty safe floor level of production here. He's gone for 45 in 3 of the last 4 games. He had a 45 against New Orleans, 30 real points in that game. So I think this is another good spot for him to just take all the shots that the Knicks need.
Yeah, and the Pelicans are 24th against the shooting guard position. The Knicks are getting a pace-up spot. Yeah. I think the Knicks are going to be popular tonight, and I think it's warranted. I think this game does stay close, hopefully. At the Garden, they've actually been playing pretty decent basketball. They just had a good win against your squad. I know it pains, it hurts you to hear, but
they were losing.
They've played a lot of good teams well lately. Yeah. Portland, they played well, who's currently like in first or second in the Western Conference. They played New Orleans well the last time. So I think this projects to be a semi-close game, and because Holiday scoring, and obviously Mitchell, we know, when he gets going like this, we saw last year, I mean, he should have been the Rookie of the Year, because Ben Simmons wasn't actually a rookie, but different topic. different
so
topic for different
I'm going to bring up Chris Middleton here just for a second because he put up 40 fantasy points in 23 minutes against Portland. I use that for the reasoning why I really like Klay Thompson tonight, because I think Klay Thompson, with his usage rate, him and Durant are really the show in Golden State right now. And Thompson and Middleton, I mean, if you want to compare them, that matchup against McCollum, I have to believe that Thompson is in a better spot given just how many shots he's going to be taking. He's taken 33s over the last 3 games as well. 6.8K on FanDuel. A big Klay Thompson guy for me tonight.
He's just super safe. He's going to take over 20 shots. He gets CJ McCollum defense, who we know has been pretty bad all year long. So it's pretty hard to ignore. The price tag doesn't rise on Klay Thompson either. I mean, we saw him in the mid-7s earlier last week, and it's down to only 6-7 on DraftKings. So he's just super safe. Lock him into cash games and move on.
Yep. Going down a little bit, Jeremy Lamb. We've seen as long as Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is out of the lineup, the minutes have been there, the production's been there. They're going to need his scoring to keep this game competitive against the Thunder.
Revenge.
Oh, yeah. There's a little bit of a revenge game. Plus, given all the injuries at shooting guard with the Thunder, Schroeder and Westbrook, they may be playing together. I didn't look at the numbers, how many times they were on the court together this season. But if that ends up being the case and Schroeder's at shooting guard, Lamb against him should be a win for Lamb. So I'm definitely in on Lamb at his price at 6K. Schroeder also 6K on FanDuel, though. I know you still have interest in him.
I mean, he just can score the basketball so well. We saw it last night, and he does a lot of different things. Obviously, he will be limited because Westbrook does those things better, and he's more aggressive about the way he does it. But they're so hurt at shooting guard that he's just going to be thrusted into minutes, and we just saw it 2 days ago. He scored 32 actual points with Westbrook, with Paul George, with Steven Adams. So I just like Schroeder at this price tag.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Value shooting guys that are on your radar tonight? KCP, obviously.
KCP is going to see the brunt of the minutes. I mean, we don't know if Josh Hart's going to sit. We don't have official word, but regardless, KCP's been playing in the mid-20s. They gave him a big contract this offseason. So he's their best perimeter defender still. And the shot's starting to fall. So there's no reason for him not to see 25-plus minutes again. And his price is so cheap. So cheap.
No, I agree with you there. I think Jordan Clarkson and GPPs is worth taking a look at still. Going down, Wayne Ellington's probably going to play 30 minutes. So I think you can certainly consider him. And then with Tony Parker out, any interest in Malik Monk? He's min-price on FanDuel.
I think I'm having a hard time gauging how the Hornets play their wing players, because 3 nights ago it was Dwayne Bacon, then it was Bridges, then it was Monk. So I want to play one of these value guys, and I think Monk is cheap enough that we could do it, but it all depends. If his shot is falling, they'll play him, and if it's not, they'll go somewhere else. It's just risky. Dwayne Bacon scored 18 actual and 30 fantasy points last game, so
yeah,
maybe he's the guy. He's played 25 and 29 2 of the last 3 games.
Yeah.
So, but it's just hard to gauge on a 12-game slate. There's enough value, especially in New York, that I don't think we need to do it.
That's fine. Moving over to small forward again, we have Giannis, LeBron, Durant, Kawhi, and George. All the top players really right there, all very safe. Giannis versus Phoenix, we worry about potential blowout there, but in 29 minutes, he put up 72 fantasy points against Portland. So, he's capable of doing it in limited playing time. Again, I'm not on LeBron tonight against Utah, but I'm not going to argue with you if you go there. For me, it's Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant is the money play in this matchup here. He averaged 39 fantasy points in 3 games against Portland last year. I think it's like he was 2 for 13 at threes over the last 3 games. And this is a guy that's a 38% career 3-point shooter. And his fantasy point totals in those 2 games were mid-50s. So if some more of those 3-pointers drop in a matchup here against Portland, which he's dominated over the last couple of years, we could be seeing, a 60, 70-point game out of Durant at a 10-5 price tag on DK and FanDuel.
Portland is dead last against small forward. Move on. Elite play. he's my play of the slate. Yeah. I know he's the cover photo of your optimal lineups too.
Yep.
So
yeah, he's the guy. Paul George in play. Russell Westbrook doesn't impact him at all. He's going to put up 40-plus fantasy points, 60-point ceiling as well. This game stays close. T.J. Warren, again, I don't mind him. I know the matchup may be a little bit difficult tonight, but he's going to get all the shots. If you can just add some peripheral numbers with the 20-plus points, he's probably going to score. He's going to hit value for us there. Gordon Hayward is still coming off the bench tonight. So that's going to be interesting because the way they've had their rotation in the past was Baynes would start, but he only would play like a handful of minutes, and then the rotation sort of mold back in. But no Al Horford. They're going to probably rely on Baynes more minutes this way. So I'm interested to see exactly how Hayward is impacted with Marcus Morris in the starting lineup now. I still think he's going to play 30 minutes, but it'll be interesting to see sort of the way they spin that. So against Atlanta, still a strong matchup, but I think I'm weary just because of the unknown with Hayward in this spot, the way their starting lineup is.
Don't you think he gets? But now with Morris, right, going into the starting rotation, how many shots he takes, doesn't it kind of open Gordon up for more shots in that second unit?
It should. I guess I'm curious to see who the first person off the floor is going to be. Like, if they take Baynes out right away, I feel like that's going to put them at a size disadvantage because Dedmon and Len are playing tonight.
Okay.
And John Collins. So I'm curious to see what happens. What happens there? Maybe Jaylen Brown's the first one out, and it ends up being Hayward in with that unit. Rudy Gay, you and I both like against Indiana. He's been putting up good scoring numbers, rebounding the basketball. And I think against them earlier this year, he had 27 points in 25 minutes, had a double-double, 11 and 10 in that game, 27 fantasy points. Tyreke Evans and Bojan, two guys that are in play for us still. We've been talking about the pivot off Bojan for a couple of days now. I mean, pivot as Bojan as a pivot off Evans for a few days now. And he's just been outproducing, even playing more minutes than Tyreke in these blowouts. So I think Bojan might even be a safer option than Evans if you're building like a cash versus DPP lineup. I think that's sort of where I would go. What other players, mid-tier value at small forward, do you have on your radar?
I think we can go to Jeff Greene here. And he's just been extremely solid. And something we mentioned on the I mean, you can play Jeff Greene or Otto Porter. I think this applies to both of them, that just without Dwight on the floor, it just opens up a ton of rebounding opportunity. And they're two guys that really rely on the peripheral stats to bolster their fantasy production. Jeff Greene's been scoring the basketball better than we've seen in the last few years.
And rebounding.
The basketball. 13 and 7 in his last two games. And it's not the double-digit rebounding thing isn't the first time he's done it in the last 10. So he's done it a handful of times. Jeff didn't get a price bump after his last game without Dwight, and now doesn't get another price bump. And Otto Porter, he, as much as he is a stand in the corner, wait for someone to pass him the ball kind of guy, he seems more aggressive just with Dwight off the floor when he gets to play down at like power forward. That kind of seems like what they're going to do here. We saw 40 fantasy points out of him, so that's the kind of upside he brings. GPPs only because Otto Porter you gouge your eyes out trying to watch him, just watching him stand in the corner the whole game.
Right. A guy that we have a lot of ownership percentage projections on is Wilson Chandler because he's another guy that the price points haven't risen on him. He's playing over 30 minutes now in back-to-back games for Philadelphia. Finally hit value at 23 fantasy points the other night, but again, $3,800 on FanDuel. Was he 34 or something like that on DraftKings? Doesn't take much for him to hit value for us, so definitely a big guy that's going to be in a lot of lineups, especially on FanDuel where if he doesn't do anything, he doesn't count against you. Maybe one other guy, your guy Michael Bridges could be a GPP play as well. I'm getting minutes regardless, but if in a blowout, definitely going to play.
Yeah, if it's a blowout, he'll definitely play. And this game, obviously, with a 14-point spread, projects that way. So, yeah, I like Bridges.
Give us a rundown of power forward position. Still waiting on Sabonis news. They said he's a true game-time decision. I know he was someone that we're both looking at, but where are you looking? Top, middle, bottom of power forward?
I mean, obviously, Anthony Davis tops the list. I think he's kind of the no-brainer here if you're going to spend up. I think if we go down, if you're playing on DraftKings, you can definitely look at Blake Griffin as an option. 9.2K is not too expensive for a guy with 60-point upside. We saw it. He literally put up 30 fantasy points, you mentioned, in like 8 minutes to end the game. So that's the type of upside he has. I would love LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, lock and load LaMarcus Aldridge if we get no Miles Turner, because they will have no rim protection against one of probably the best back to the basket scorers. I mean, just best post players in basketball. Going down, Serge Ibaka. I think he projects to start here with no Dwight Howard. I don't see a reason to start Valanciunas, even though Thomas Bryant will start. It doesn't make any sense.
Even if he doesn't start, he probably comes on pretty quickly, because once Bryant's off the floor, Valanciunas would come off the floor. So
right. Yeah. Marcus Morris, obviously we have to talk about, because I think him and Tatum both project as really strong plays. But Marcus Morris takes all the shots, and he's cheap. Mm-hmm. Do we consider him for cash games now? 4.9K against,
I think so,
in one of the best matchups. I do too. I really
don't see Boston playing a lot of Aron Baynes tonight. I think he plays 20 to 25 minutes max, which means they're going to go small. I think Morris is going to be part of that small ball rotation a lot. He's already playing an average of around like 25, 26, 27 minutes in that range anyway. So, he played 30 minutes against the Knicks last time. It wouldn't shock me to see him play similar minutes tonight. And yeah, like I said, we know the scoring's there. He can chip in a little bit across the board. 4.7 on FanDuel. I think he's similar over on DraftKings. Yeah, great spot for him. $100 more on FanDuel. No Vonleh. Vonleh's cheaper on DraftKings. I know you're on Vonleh just for ownership standards. I don't trust him in this matchup. I think, I have maybe a bias against the player, against knowing that he could play against Anthony Davis or, Mirotic or Julius Randle. Like, I want to see him do it against better competition, but, against Boston, Portland, back-to-back 40-point games, double-doubles, hard to argue.
I'm having a hard time fading a guy at 4.3K over on DraftKings that has gone for 40-plus in back-to-back games.
Yeah.
That's just I think a nice pivot off of him would be Jeremy Grant, though. Okay. Also has upside. Also, like we said on the podcast, can destroy Marvin Williams. Marvin Williams will not be able to keep up with his athleticism. So I think he's a strong pivot.
Yep. I'm going to throw Daniel Tice out there. I think he's going to be the small ball center for the Boston Celtics tonight. Don't have to play him, obviously. But he's 3.5K, a min-price guy on power forward. If you're in the $9 NBA shot tonight and you need to separate yourself, maybe he's a guy min-price to look at. Over at center, love Joel Embiid. Nobody in Cleveland has anybody that can stop him. Blood's obviously a concern, but I think he could end up with like 40 fantasy points at halftime in this matchup. Like, I don't see Tristan Thompson really doing anything against him. I think they're just going to feed Embiid. So while I think, maybe we don't see a ceiling game from him, he could get 60, I think, in 3 quarters, and that's perfectly fine. Whiteside, no, off the injury report. The knee isn't a problem, apparently. Love him against Chicago. Had a 20-20 game coming off against Brooklyn. We know the block upside is there. 8.5K on FanDuel. Big on him. I like Gobert in GVPs. You're a big Randall guy. I love it. I'm not going to argue with it. Guy's a fantasy point per minute monster. So definitely in on him against the Knicks. And then Steven Adams is my cash games guy.
Yeah, it's really hard to argue with anyone you just said, but Steven Adams, we mentioned Drew Holiday's consistency. 42, 36, 41, 37, 38, 40, 40, 35 for Adams. So it's pretty hard to argue that he's not someone that we want to get into our cash games as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely love him. And then again, min price option, Aron Baynes. Again, he's going to play 20 to 25 minutes, I'm feeling, against Atlanta. Because Atlanta does have some traditional bigs in Len and Dedmon, maybe they're going to need more Baynes than I'm giving them credit for. Atlanta's not very good against the center position. Baynes started a couple times last year for Horford and had a pretty strong game against the Nets. I think he had 20 points and whatever rebound. So he's certainly a capable option at center for Boston. Any other centers I missed that maybe are on your radar?
No, that's it. Generally, we could play like Ibaka and someone like and Noah Vonleh over at center on DraftKings. So like we don't need to do anything too crazy.
That's fair. So DraftKings, the slate locks at 7:00, but we do have late swap there when the Detroit-Houston game starts. So you still can wait out the injury news. I guess that's the one benefit for FanDuel is they don't have the late swap. So they gave us a 7:30 start. So those playing on FanDuel, you have the extra half an hour tonight. DraftKings 7:00. That wraps it up for today's live stream. James and I will be in subscriber chat Everything's out there for you guys already. Playbook, optimal lineup, starting five video, all of the tools are working. Check out the lineup generator. And like I said, James and I will be in subscriber chat to answer your questions. Good luck, everybody, tonight, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Later, guys.